You want the timeline that explains how a radar gap became a battlefield decapitation? Here's what you're getting in the next minutes. The maintenance window, the drone ingress profile, the strike stack on depots, and the satellite-confirmed scorched Earth. We'll show how jamming, spoofing, and low-altitude routing bypassed key radars, how disabling nodes like counter-battery and book-related arrays blinded the net, and why Tokmak's collapse throttled resupply to frontline units. Watch to the end for the exact 13-minute sequence that made it possible. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. A fortress can fall not to bombs first, but to a calendar entry. Why did a routine maintenance window become the opening Ukraine waited for? Tokmak sat like a switchboard. Fuel trucks cycled in, ammo pallets stacked out, and repair bays kept armor rolling for multiple brigades along the southern axis. Around it, defenses formed rings. Out on the edges, TORM-2 units scanned for low, small intruders. Closer in, Strela 10 launchers and gun systems covered the approaches. Inside the core, radar nodes tied the picture together for batteries that could swat anything that popped up above the tree line. 6 mobile Panzer units floated between sectors, adding point defense where planners feared gaps. Ground crews knew the rule. The closer you got to Tokmak, the less forgiveness you had. That structure made it hard to crack, because each ring fed the next with data, and any spike on the scopes pulled weapons toward it. The weak point wasn't a broken launcher, it was time. Each week, select radar nodes went down for 2 hours of planned maintenance. On paper, the network compensated. Overlapping coverage, alternate emitters, and standby crews were supposed to keep the map clean. But overlap on a slide is not overlap in a storm of radio chatter, diesel exhaust, and night movement. If one node paused, and the neighbor was already filtering clutter, refresh rates drifted, and the seam expanded. 2 hours at night might mean 10 to 15 minutes when the detection floor sagged just enough for something small to pass. Look at the stack. Zoopark 1 watched for artillery arcs and helped cue counter-battery fires, but its scan pattern and elevation limits made it a poor low drone catcher. The 9S-36M Viking tied to Buk provided fire control quality tracks when targets presented clean returns, yet it had to manage angle, range, and identification before missiles left the rails. TORM-2 filled the low tier with a rotating pulse every few seconds, strong against targets that climbed or hovered, weaker against objects that hugged ground clutter and rolled under the lobes. Each system had look angles and refresh cycles that left short-lived pockets at very low altitude. Stack them in theory, and the gaps vanish. Stack them in motion, and the holes move. Doctrine banked on redundancy. Practice wrestled with staggered maintenance, crews with long shifts, and electromagnetic clutter from constant operations. A convoy keying radios creates spikes. A generator spitting noise blurs a sector. Operators notch out junk and sometimes notch out real targets that ride inside that junk. The more the night filled with emissions, the harder it became to keep a perfect screen. Ukraine leaned into that chaos with a decentralized electronic warfare posture. Small jammer teams and spoofers stayed mobile, nudging threat radars off frequency or feeding them unhelpful returns. A mesh known as Pokrova knitted devices into a wide net, harvesting signals and feeding operators timing data without letting any single node give away the full plan. The goal wasn't a loud blackout. It was drift. Tiny shifts that widened a seam already scheduled by maintenance. FPV teams trained to read antenna silhouettes and chase emissions, learning which shapes marked a radar and which boxes fed it power. Routes were pre-plotted days in advance, marked to ride terrain folds, canal banks, and tree lines. Drones held to very low altitude, lower than a TOR operator expected to fight, slipping under the detection floor and using fog and power corridors for cover. The plan lived by minutes. Ingress had to cross the seam while the eyes flickered. Any early ping and the window slammed shut. So the attack clock started inside the 2-hour maintenance block at the lowest coverage overlap that night. Scheduled downtime turned into operational blindness, long enough for the first wave to cut the perimeter's nerves. With the blindfold on, the first cuts go to the nerves. Take down the outer eyes before the fortress can even shout. If you had 13 minutes to erase a logistics hub, what hits first? The eyes, the fuel, or the ammo? The clock starts at 3:47. Small, low RCS drones skim in at roughly 160 feet, riding berms and canal banks to stay buried in dead ground. Their targets are the perimeter emitters, not the depots. Not yet. Antenna faces on Tor M2 units, the Viking-associated 9S-36M masts, and the Zoo Park 1 arrays at the edges get the first knocks. The aim is to choke the air picture and counter-battery queuing before operators can escalate to full-spectrum defense. Charges tuned for brittle metal joints snap feeds, and power units go next. A blind radar is a useless launcher, and a quiet counter-battery node can't fix guns on ingress points. On paper, Russia's rings should chew up cheap drones. In practice, spoofed signatures pull attention away from the real lanes. Routes baked into terrain maps let pilots cut GPS dependence, and when jamming rises, Starlink links sustain control without broadcasting a predictable path. Visual waypoints set off tree lines and culverts, keep them inside the scene. The network expects tracks that climb or hover. It gets lines that stay low and vanish under clutter. Phase 1 strips sensors. Phase 2 kneecaps the shooters that rely on them. Support trucks, generator trailers, and reload vehicles for SAM batteries. Take shaped hits that starve missiles of power and data. A disabled generator turns a launcher into scrap for the next pass. Phase 3 shifts the weight inward. Warehouses and fuel silos, mapped weeks earlier, receive the first heavy blows. Phase 4, times follow-on munitions to arrive as fires take hold, pushing secondary blasts through adjacent stacks and tunnels. Cutting radar nodes does more than dim the scopes. It downgrades track quality and bloats engagement cycles. Operators who once saw clean tracks now chase ghosts, and every extra step slows missile release. That drag opens a channel to land precision strikes on depots before a coherent intercept plan can form. The difference is minutes, and minutes are the whole battle. FPV teams lead with tight runs at antenna heads and the boxy power units that feed them. Once EW teams confirm an emission drop, loitering munitions commit with steep dives, trading altitude for speed so interceptors have less time to react. In the background, sapper elements pass confirmed coordinates to long-range guns. Pre-plotted points for ammo stacks, fuel rows, and the command complex roll into fire missions without delay. The ground starts to talk back. Seismographs in the region pulse as chained detonations run along the storage zone. Ammunition cooks off in waves. Fuel columns climb and hold, throwing a heat bloom strong enough to pop on satellite minutes later. Thermal signatures spread in irregular rings as buried stacks ignite through blast vents. Then a twist. Interceptor drones rise to meet the threat. Short dogfights flicker over the depots, but spoofed paths and decoys drag defenders off axis, chasing targets that won't matter. The main strike keeps to the depots and support vehicles, the places that turn a hub into a hub. Each minute that passes without clean target quality data compounds the damage. This is why the outer air defenses go first. Blinding the ring delays track fidelity, slows tasking, and forces manual deconfliction. The strike package gets a lane that stays open long enough to finish the depots before surviving SAM batteries can align a firing order. When the flames settle, the map changes. Roads that fed brigades go quiet, convoys park up, and the blackened footprint of Tokmak sits where a fortress was supposed to stand. A fortress is only as strong as its timing. When the net blinked, synchronized EW and drones turned minutes into a decapitation, severing Tokmak's lifeline and leaving thousands undersupplied. Fuel to key brigades collapsed overnight, and guns on the Zaporizhzhia front fell silent, showing how a 2-hour gap can cripple a sector. Watch the quiet details. shifts in maintenance windows, new EW vans on the move, and fresh satellite burns over depots. Those small notes signal the next opening. If 13 minutes can erase a hub, what happens when both sides learn to hide the clock and start moving the hands?